Simplysafe's getting pretty popular lately, and since I've installed a few hundred systems, I figured I'd make a video with installation tips and recommendations. Now, I don't work for Simplisafe. I'm not trying to promote their product or equipment. I'm just making a video on a subject I know a lot about in case someone out there is interested. So what is Simplisafe? Well, Simplisafe is a home security system. It's meant to be lightweight yet effective, and it very well can be if it's implemented correctly, and I'm here to help you do that. I'm going to go over a comprehensive setup first with all the possible devices, but keep in mind, depending on your needs, you may be able to get away with much less, and I'm going to cover that at the end of the video. So let's start with entry sensors. The most effective use of these would be on every door and window at the ground level. Now that may seem like overkill, but I'll explain why it's not. When your system is in home mode, it does not arm your motion sensors by default. You can change this in the app, but if you're moving around your house, it'll set off the alarm, and you want to feel free to move around your home without worrying about your alarm going off. Having entry sensors at all relevant points of entry allows you to stay protected if someone enters and you are home. And during the day, when you might just be hanging around your house, if a window in the basement is open, your base station will ding. Now this is why the placement of the base station is important, and this is why I chose to talk about it after the entry sensors, to help you understand why it's important. You want to be able to hear it. You want to know if something's opened and it isn't supposed to be. This can be handy if you have small children in an upstairs bedroom. If they somehow open their window, you can be aware right away and prevent a potentially fatal or nasty fall. So the base station should be placed somewhere on the main level, close to where you spend time during the day. On a table, a shelf, in a corner is best because acoustics do matter even if the difference isn't that much. So let's move on to the glass break sensors. In my opinion, these are the most worthless pieces of equipment you can get. Maybe one for your kids' room to know if they've broken their window, but criminals don't break glass and climb through it. They break glass, reach in to open a door or a window, and open it. Granted, they could attempt to grab the entry sensors through the broken glass, somehow rip them off the wall while not breaking the connection, and then open the door or window, but they would have to know where they were. Which brings us to the signs and stickers. The best place for these are in the garbage. Never advertise what type of security system you have. You don't want anybody to have any kind of advantage over you when they're trying to break into your house. Your main advantage is the element of surprise. So we don't want anyone to know you even have a security system. So if they open up a door and they trip the alarm goes off and they go running. The next piece of equipment we want to talk about are the motion sensors. Now I really like the motion sensors. The motion sensors are great, but they have to be placed right. You want to get the maximum coverage. You want to stand in key areas of your home and have your family try to sneak by you to get to another part of the house. Once you get a few points where no one can get by you without you seeing them, place the motion sensors on the wall about 5 feet above the ground. It's important to note that if you have dogs, you may want to forego the motion sensors in any area the dog has free roam of when you're not home. If your dogs are small and your ceilings are high, you can get away with installing the devices upside down with the bottom button on the bottom and a little bit higher on the wall. Now I've had success with 10 feet, but really no lower. If your dog is big, you don't have to worry about the motion sensors. You may think your dog is a big baby, but that's not a risk most criminals are willing to take. However, you can put a motion sensor in an area where your dog isn't allowed, but a criminal will definitely check, like the master bedroom, office, or the basement. Moving on to the water sensors. The water sensors are super awesome devices that can save you a lot of time and money. Put one of these bad boys by your hot water heater, and if it bursts, you'll know immediately, and that can save you a lot of damage and a lot of headache. Then we have the smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide detectors. Your house probably already has smoke detectors everywhere. Putting a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector next to your existing detectors is a good idea. If you don't have smoke detectors in some key areas of your house, you definitely want to utilize these devices. Now for the key fobs. The key fobs are more for convenience. They allow you to turn off and on your system without having the keypad. However, they do have a small red panic button on the top. Simplisafe does have separate devices for panic buttons, but if you were going to go with one or the other, I'd opt for the key fob instead. It just does the same thing, but it has extra functionality. You can also get an extra alarm. Depending on the size of your house, you may not need it, but if you do, put it on the opposite side of the house as the base station. Best just to set it up on top of something in case you want to move it later. Then there are the cameras. The absolute worst problem I have with Simplisafe is the expectations people have for these cameras. They are quite simply a tabletop plug-in camera. They do sell mounts and outdoor weatherization kits, which can actually work really well in some situations, but those are the exception, not the rule. Unless you can see an easy way to hide the wire and plug it in, I'd go with the Ring Spotlight or even an Arlo. Otherwise, this is just a tabletop camera. And then there's a keypad. You only need one keypad unless you have people coming in multiple entrances. By default, the alarm won't go off for 30 seconds once it's tripped, so you should have time to enter your PIN and turn it off. If you foresee that being a problem, add a second keypad at a second entrance. Now the 30-second thing isn't set in stone. You can change that from your app or your keypad. So now let's talk about physical installation tips. Obviously, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors screw in. The adhesive usually sucks, though, with one caveat. The entry sensor's small contact sticks super good. I don't, however, recommend using the screws either in the larger part of the contact sensor. The Simplisafe screws are small and cheap and can just be a really bad time trying to screw them in. A small dab of Gorilla Glue will hold them for good and also make them easier to remove. Because let's face it, nothing's forever these days and devices are replaced every few years and you don't want any of this to be super permanent. I do recommend using one screw in the motion sensors. I know it has 4 slots, but one holds it just fine. Maybe one on the keypad, but Gorilla Glue works there too. Now maybe you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you still want to feel secure. Now, entry sensors on the doors and a couple of motion sensors does the trick just fine. I can protect a small apartment with one entry sensor and one motion sensor, and a small apartment on the 3rd floor with a dog, one entry sensor for your door is all you really need. Okay, so now there are also a couple of settings you want to change. The Simplisafe base station works on a cellular signal. Now, I've heard some other security companies have been going around with a cell phone jammer claiming they can shut down the Simplisafe system. This is just scaremongering. If you follow my directions about the sign, no one will even know you have a Simplisafe system, but just to add a layer of protection, an extra layer of protection for this type of attack, you want to connect your Wi-Fi network through the keypad. You just press menu, you enter your PIN, and you scroll down to system settings. From system settings, you want to choose the Wi-Fi network and follow the prompts to connect. On the menu, you'll also see pins. You want to click on that and set a duress pin. If you don't know what that is, that's a decoy pin in case someone forces you to turn off your system. And that's pretty much it. If you have any further questions, you can leave them in the comments. I've installed hundreds of these systems, so I'll help out where I can. Again, I don't work for Simplisafe. I'm not promoting Simplisafe. I'm just making a video on a subject I know about to help others. So thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something today.